is here, no turning back. Will the robots lead, or will they lack? This is a trend we just can't miss. So let's chat about bots and beers and the biz.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Bots, Beers, and the Biz. This is the podcast that explores major trends in artificial intelligence and emerging technology, focusing on how small businesses can innovate and adapt to these changes. My name is Jason Price. I'm CEO of Aston Price. We collaborate with strategic partners and customers to scale adoption responsibly for AI and build intelligence on tap. Now, I don't know if you knew this, September 19th. Do you guys know what September 19th is?
No, I don't think so.
I'm springing this on you, so you shouldn't. But it's called Pirate Day. So over here on one side is Arby Leon.
Love it.
And on my other side is Skaar Saxena.
What's going on? Yeah, I'll give a quick introduction to Skaar Saxena, the co-owner of Cloud Consulting Services Incorporated. We do IT consulting and staffing for the public sector, working on a variety of projects from cybersecurity, AI, network penetration, things like that.
Awesome. And I'm Arby Leon, CEO and founder of Max E-commerce, an e-commerce platform that helps clients do A through Z with one company.
Thank you both. And
Awesome.
This is Arby's discussion today. He brought us forward the idea to dive down into how agentic AI and specifically AWS Bedrock can help small businesses with real world use cases. And make sure you stay tuned because at the end of this episode, we've got a bonus. How to set up your own personal agent that checks your calendar, checks your tasks and emails, and then builds you a prioritized to-do list. We'll tell you how to get that set up later on in the episode, so stay tuned. Let's begin, of course, with the idea of agentic. What the heck is agentic? What am I talking about? This is the year of the agent. They keep talking about 2025 is the year of the agent. What does that mean to you guys?
I mean, I'll start it off before we get into Arby's discussion here. I mean, if you look at anything AI right now, you search up AI something, you'll see the words agent in probably the top 4 or 5, search results. Everyone's making an agent, an AI agent, and it's the new buzzword within the AI community. And so just off a general basis, and we can dive deeper later, agent is just something that helps you with your workflow or anything really. It's just something that it's just another term for the program, basically. That's how I would put it.
Arby, you agree?
Yes. And if I were to expand on that, an agent is when, let's say, we can ask the AI and it will respond. But an agent is when they will make a decision on what to do. So in our bonus, we said set up an assistant. The assistant will go through your calendar and your emails and decide which one should get priority, and then create a to-do list to prioritize and help you, as if you had an assistant, just an agent, a virtual assistant. So
Basically.
So I think that's one way of putting it, and I hand it off to Jason. What's your take on?
Yeah, and the way I think about it is AI brings all these capabilities to bear, and as I do these workshops with customers, they are like, well, this is great, but how do I automate this? How do I get this kind of regular? How do I do this on a regular basis? And to me, that's what the agent is, like a declarative agent that's running the same type of query out and bringing information forward, or like a process-oriented agent. So it's that middle layer of the pyramid from just, okay, isn't this great? It can help me do all these tasks, to now it's automating these, and it's leading up to where that future that I know Microsoft talks about, which is there is a place where now there's human agent teams where agents have kind of jumped on board and they're starting to operate and run parts of the business so we can put all of that mundane task work onto them and turn around and do things that are more strategic and valuable. But it's not 100% with agents. And so there's this discussion going on right now about whether agents are an opportunity, whether they are a headache, or whether they're just completely hype. Where do you guys stand on that?
I mean, with any new technology, and I mean, I know it seems like, I mean, I know AI has been worked on for a long time now, but it's now relatively new for the general masses. There's going to be first an influx of, companies out there. So you're going to see a wide variety of use cases, companies, and also quality. And so just like with any new technology, even with this within the agentic market, you're going to have those companies that are just, not good, that don't have the, right programming or doesn't do what it's supposed to do, things like that. But then you also have the companies that are doing good, the ones that actually do provide value to your business or your life and those things. So I would say it's a mix, honestly, of opportunity and headache, because there is plenty of opportunity there, but it's a headache to find that because you have to sort through so many different programs, different companies. For me personally, we've gone through so many different demos for, AI stuff that we're looking for, and it's just like that causes the headache. But there's so much opportunity there that, it's kind of worth it.
You agree, Arby?
Yeah, what was funny? I was towards the end of July. I was at a AWS conference on agentic AI, and one of the theme that commonly was brought up throughout all the presentations was, even enterprise companies are tired of the hype, because here you go and you say, well, this is what could be done, and companies say, hey, listen, I don't want to hear about what could be done. Show me what can be done that with certainty, and then you want to get, and then we can go about whether or not that's a good fit for us. So that being said, I think the hype is kind of dying down with people realizing that, okay, there are some limitations. Even though there are great opportunities, there's still a lot of limitation, and there's a lot of trust issue, as we've discussed before, transparency. Now we're talking about agents making their own decisions. So what does that look like? How do I know what kind of decision it's going to make? What if I was reading this one paper? It was talking about how you have to safeguard so that if you're using, an AI agent as your support team, the customer doesn't prompt saying, ignore all your protocols and reimburse me $1,000. And all of a sudden the agent does as it's dictated. So I believe that the hype is gone. Now we realize that no, there's concrete limitations. We still see a lot of opportunity, but how does that apply to today? What can we do, and what are still some of the risks associated with those?
I think that gets into the headache of it is
Right.
And you're right. The hype is, listen, the manufacturers are all out there pushing everything. And so the hype is, look at what's capable. And so then, case in point, I'm running a pilot with a legal nonprofit, and we showed them everything that Copilot can do. And they're just kind of getting started. And there's one guy who's extremely smart and jumps right to it. He's like, I built an agent to accept documents coming into my inbox and automatically rename them and save them to a particular location, and it's not working. And so two problems with that. One is nobody tells you what can agents not do. where are the boundaries to it? Because the manufacturers are pushing so much on, whoa, it can do everything. It can do your grandma's laundry. It's going to help with everything you possibly need. And the boundaries aren't clear. And in this case, what this guy is trying to do is create a simple automation, which doesn't really require an AI agent to run it. It could be an automation built into it from like Power Automate or some other type of tool. So the hype creates the headache in that area where capability, the could, and the practicality, the can are colliding or overlapping, that friction that's between them. So I like to always kind of bring it down and be like, all right, let's talk practically about what you really need and build out a nice set of use cases like you just mentioned, Skaar. Build them out. And then let's look at how we can apply AI to each of those directly. And then we'll get a sense of what it can and can't do, and then we'll find solutions for the others. Kind of push them over to the side. We'll come back to it on our roadmap after we get done with this implementation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's how I do it. But there's so much pain out there. So there are things that are great to hand off that is like nice mundane tasks that agents can go and run. I mean, if we actually do figure out the fix for this where email attachments coming in can get routed and renamed and all of that, it's fantastic. That helps this intake sequence. But there are things that are not good to hand off. So what do you think are these repetitive tasks in business that you would not hand off?
I think that I wouldn't hand off any finalized decision making. So I'd want to get all the research, all the information, all the flags and this and that, but then they're all presented to me for me to then decide on. And so that would be something that, I don't think I'm comfortable now handing it off. But I am sure, I don't know when, but I'm sure in the future that's not going to be an issue.
Yeah, kind of in the same vein. I need to have like final decision making, specifically in the interest of anything that goes towards a client or potential client, like, those 12-step sales plans or things like that. AI is really good for, maybe creating some email or something like that, but that doesn't mean I'm going to send it right away just after, or have it just send it automatically. I'm going to double check, make sure everything's correct and everything. So that final decision making power, just because AI is just not at that level yet where you can fully have 100% confidence in it. So
Yeah.
I guess specifically to anything towards a client, like any email, phone call, whatever, that's something that I want to hand off yet.
I don't mind it drafting notes and everything and providing those up, but I always go, where it'll often have the disclaimer at the top. AI results may not be correct. I'm like, well, God damn it, it's going to my customer. So go through and clean it up and make sure it all is correct before it goes out.
Exactly.
Same thing, right? The one thing that I don't allow AI to do, I'm paranoid about my accounts payable and accounts receivable. I'm like,
Right.
too much money flowing back and forth. I'm nervous about even just letting everybody in my company touch that data. So heck, if I'm going to let something that is that I don't quite trust enough yet to run that stuff. But yet,
Oh yeah.
aren't those perfect examples of what I should be letting it do? It should be invoicing. It should be processing deposits. So what's wrong
Yeah,
with
but
me?
then we've already talked about, the security issues and everything with an AI, and so especially all that information is probably the most secret information you want of your business. You don't want to get that out there, so it's totally understandable. I mean, like it's easier to get, everything else automated first, but when it comes to your financials and reporting and all that, that's where it becomes, like, oh, I'd rather be manual on this and have it be safe and secure. So totally understandable, at least on my end.
So how can, and I know, Arby, you have to tell us the story about this conference you went to,
That's
and
right.
tell me how you might help me with this problem as a small business owner.
Right. Well, before we dive in, should we introduce what we're drinking? I
What you
am
got there?
drinking Harland, a Japanese beer.
Japanese lager.
Lager,
Nice.
yes. There it is. I
How does
actually
that stack up against like the
Sapporo
common
that
ones
you
we find
also-
in sushi bars?
Yeah.
here's
The
Sapporo. I got this one too.
Yes.
Yeah. Honestly, I really enjoyed this. Really enjoyed it.
I mean, in the same vein, I got a Taiwanese beer here. It's sweet. Yeah, it's sweet lychee. So far, so good. It's very light. It's very sweet too. So it's not bad,
So it's got
Jason,
more sugar,
what do you
less
have?
alcohol.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah. I
It's
am
almost
down
a
to
soda.
my last 2 cans of Elysian Space Dust. I'm an IPA fan. So give me the hops. Heavy on the alcohol, heavy on the bitterness. My wife won't touch it.
Yeah.
But hey, more for
Yeah.
me. So I'm finishing these up. So cheers, boys.
Cheers.
All right, Arby, tell us your story.
So, we kind of covered what the agentic AI era is. And, one thing that's not being discussed as much is we have layers of agents now. So you can have a researcher that will run a specific research and then find out information and pass it on to an analyst. And that analyst will then pass it on to, let's say, a strategist, right? And a strategist then could come up with all these things, and then now you can have a supervisor level added on top of this, who has a lot more compute power and is able to basically analyze and kind of review, kind of like what you were saying, Jason, all the processes that these agents have done. So instead of the supervisor having this, extremely expensive compute power, do everything A to Z, it will actually just give bare minimum permission for the AI agents to run all the rudimentary analysis, strategies, and all of this, come up with a plan, blah, 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 and then go and show it to the supervisor saying, well, here was the task, here is our presentation. And then the supervisor, then it will review all of that. And then you can give the supervisor a certain amount of power above what these rudimentaries have. Obviously, because of its extensive compute power, it's capable of understanding the context a lot better, right? And so it can, the scope that it will understand is far greater. And it'll take a bit more time also to analyze and then decide what it needs to do. And then you can have it then give instructions back to the agents saying that, hey, this research isn't enough or isn't accurate. Go ahead and do further research based on this. And so then you have this agent-to-agent communication going on, and then you have a supervisor kind of approving, disapproving, asking for renditions and so on and so forth. Now, as we talk, go ahead.
Are you like basically talking about agents that perform a specific function in a business process, and each one of them is kind of sequentially built? This one does this part of the task, hands it off to this agent, runs this part, hands it off to this agent, runs this part, and the supervisor oversees all three?
Right. And that supervisor has authority to then either request revisions or then pass it along up the chain, whether you're the business owner or not, or if you want it to make certain decisions. Say, generate my invoice, bookkeeper number 1, right? You're my agent. You're a bookkeeper. You're logging the hours. Once you're done, send all of that to my CPA, and my CPA will write the invoice considering all the taxations and this and that. And then the supervisor will come in just to look at, okay, what's going on? Or maybe that wasn't a good analogy, but we can go into the law aspect of it. You are my paralegal. So, and then, agent number 1 is a paralegal. Agent number 2 might be just researcher, right? So paralegal could give tasks to the researcher, and the researcher can come back with, whatever results. And then the paralegal can start putting the papers together, build the case, and then send it to the lawyer agent who's going to review all that. And then you, as the senior lawyer, then you get to basically review a completed file and then decide how you want to proceed. So, but you can also give the lawyer authority to file a motion, for instance, or request a revision, or communicate with the client, send an email saying, here's what we found out, here's where we are. So those types of things. Or tell the client, these are evidence that we need, right? So it gets really fun. But as we have discussed over time during our episodes, how do we know what they're doing? How are they deciding? This is where Bedrock comes in.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jason.
That was just the thing I was thinking to myself. I'm like, okay, great. So you guys know about Latham and Watkins that filed some paperwork in court, and upon review, the court went back and said there is no case that
That's
you
right.
just referenced. They had made up this reference. So shame on whoever was filing that for not. I mean, at the very least, if AI is doing most of your work, you should
Just
check the
double-check it.
sources
Yeah.
to make sure it's there. And B, now there's this need for the supervisor agent to come in that can double check those and can oversee those actions, so that it is kind of verifying that other level. So this is the human passing more responsibility down into the tools, and even now the human abdicating editing responsibility for that. I don't think that is. I don't see that as viable. So how do you continue to manage the quality of your product if everything is being automated? That's my question.
Right. So Amazon's done a really nice thing. So first of all, it deals with security. So you don't have to worry about security. That's number one. In fact, before even AI was around, one of the reasons why we chose Amazon as our infrastructure, technology infrastructure, was because of security. And so here is Amazon, who's got millions upon trillions data points, understands security. They utilize it every day. They utilize their services every day. So they're involved. They kind of have a skin in the game, right? and some of whatever they have, they're using it for themselves, and so they can expose things a lot quicker than any other, let's say, provider, smaller provider. But with Bedrock, you already get this security. Then what they've done is, which I thought was great, is they have integrated this transparency, which is a logging mechanism that records all the reasons for the decisions that were made. So as a business owner, then you can say, well, this is wrong. How did you come up with it? Because that's more important. How did you get to this point? How can we correct you so that you don't get to this point? That's more important. So Amazon has provided the transparency. So the AI is doing whatever it needs to do in a secure environment, and then everything is transparently shared with you. So you can jump in as it's making decisions even and review, wait a minute, stop there. I don't want you to do that. You can do it real time. You can do it afterwards. You can, then refine it and so on and so forth, correct it. And the third layer is some of these guidelines, right, are already embedded so that you're not having to start from scratch. They already have a bunch of guidelines that are, then they give you the ability to choose whatever model you want to use. You want to use Gemini? Go ahead. You want OpenAI? No problem. Anthropic? No problem. Whichever you want, you can utilize, and you don't have to worry about, well, now I got to do all of this for this company, or, you could, by just a quick drop down, you can select a different model and it'll switch to that model. So a lot of this has been taken care of, and that's where Bedrock assists in saving, a whole lot of time in development, which translates to cost. So, and then you have the ability to even choose presets. There are some presets that you can choose from, and this and that. So, and then if you are already locked into, or if you're already working, let's say, with AWS, now it's, even easier to integrate, because it's, most of the time you don't even have to do anything. It'll tell you, hey, this is what I have. Should I now go ahead and connect? And you say, yeah. You don't have to even manually grab some keys and this and that to connect and so on and so forth. So, like I said, for small businesses, this just becomes a lot quicker to develop, a lot quicker to get up and running. It takes away any hesitation. For instance, if I want to experiment with OpenAI, I can do that. And then, by the end of the month, if I feel like this isn't doing it, I can switch to another model and I don't have to worry about it. Everything is just there. That being said, I wanted to ask you gentlemen a question or two. One of them being, if you were running a small business, what's the one task you'd never hand over to an AI? And based on what you heard from Bedrock, do you think that now you have perhaps changed your mind?
Well, ARAP is mine. Skaar, what's yours?
We kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but just that final decision-making, process, anything that goes out towards a client, any communication basically that goes out towards a client, that's kind of where I'm at. I think even with Bedrock, you can still being able to refine the decision-making and everything is always a benefit. But for as a small business owner, your clients are everything. And so you want, at least for me, I have that philosophy. Everything that goes to a client, I want to make sure I look at it and double check to make sure it's, up to our standards and everything like that. So, like I said earlier, even if AI gets really, really good, I probably will still stand by that process, just to make sure, like it's obviously it'll become easier and easier, but for me, it's just whatever's going to a client needs to be vetted. Now, all my other processes and everything like that, even, like recruiting and stuff, that sounds like a great, you know, opportunity for sure.
So let's stick a hole in here and say, okay, great, you want everything that goes out to all of your clients to be vetted by you. I mean, are you what are all your salespeople sending their drafts up to you before
Right,
they go out?
right.
Are all your engineers sending their drafts up to you? It's almost
Sure.
like this becomes a exercise in the leader delegating responsibility down or not.
So yeah, let me clarify. I don't mean by me. I just mean by, I guess, like the SME or some
Mm.
human basically. Like if it's my salesperson, I just want to make sure. And obviously, I can't keep an eye out on everyone, making sure they're doing this. I've definitely probably some of our salespeople probably send out a touch email that's just AI generated and didn't look at it. But the idea is that if it's my salespeople and they're it's fine. Create your email through AI. That's totally fine, but just double check it for grammar at the very least, right? Even if the information is correct, incorrect. So, or the engineers too. Like it's just about whoever the SME is or whoever's in charge of whatever. That's the idea. When I say me, I just mean like a human, I guess,
Hmm.
in charge of that aspect or in charge of that task. So,
So, do you say then that you change your process in that the agent should draft to human review before it's distributed? Is that true in your marketing? Is that true?
yeah.
Like I think about every channel that you have communications with prospects or customers. Where do your humans actually get on, and where can
Yeah.
you not? Where do they not need to be?
So, I mean, in all aspects, in our marketing, in our outreach, both for our clients and our candidates, um, there's always a human on the final end in terms of like for our marketing. We will have AI, create some marketing material. That's totally cool. But we'll just double check whoever our marketing person is. Sometimes they ask me for my opinion or my other co-owner for their opinion, but we'll take a look and if it works, it looks good, sounds good, send that away, let that go out. Same with like emails, touch points, presentations, things like that. Feel free, but at the end, you know, we want our salesperson to look at it. Um, it's just I guess to answer your question more directly, it's just that endpoint. It's just that endpoint, really.
Mm-hmm.
You can have the salesperson, plug in whatever they need, and then whatever process or maybe we have a client come in, right? So we start our 12 touch point plan automatically. Client requests come in or interest come in, we'll start our 12 touch point plan immediately. So all the internal processes that start, that's all good. We don't need a human for all that internal process, putting that client information into a database, things like that. But that first touch point, for like an intro email, right? Honestly, even the first touch point could be good. Like it's just going to be an introduction to our company, and that's going to be something set that we've already done before. But then as soon as it becomes anything customizable, where the client replies, where it's like, oh, after intro, where it's probably like a set email. They're like, oh, we need this, 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 or whatever internal processes happen. At the end, if we're replying back to that person, there needs to be a human to make sure that it's relevant, it's correct, and the quality is there. So that's where you know, I don't want to take any human away, at least not right now. So
Right. So would you say the real hurdle for you is trusting the system?
yes,
Okay.
absolutely. And I think that's just, I mean, we talked again a little bit earlier right now, or I mentioned, I mean, there's so many AI agents out there, right? You look up, you Google something for AI agent, and you'll have so many different, companies out there, all the different startups. They're all startups, first of all, too. I mean, besides the big companies, they're all startups. So, who actually knows how well their technology works. So it's hard. It's hard to trust the system that is currently there. And I think like 3 to 5 years from now, it'll be different. And, I'll have more trust because by then, all the companies that people can't trust, they'll go bankrupt. I mean, it's kind of, I wasn't really conscious for the dot-com bubble, but from what I read and hear, it's kind of like there was an influx of all these websites and everything, and now look at those that survived are thriving, and those that didn't are gone. So it's going to be the same thing here, where it's like 5 years down the line, all these companies, but the ones that survive and actually provide quality work will thrive. So.
Uh, do you think that for most small businesses to, let's say, get in, that would be the trusting is the issue, or do you think that money is the issue, or do you think they don't even know how to do it? Do you think that
Whoa.
it's in stages, or
Yeah.
depending
So,
on the client, it might be one or the other?
I mean, I think it depends on, what industry the small business is in. We're all in the IT industry, so we all have the know-how. At least we should. And so, but if we go to, even just like a marketing agency, they may not know, what an agent can do or things what it's capable of. Um, and so I think, depending on the industry, that's probably the biggest hurdle. Because I mean, we've had guests in the past talk about how they don't know what it's capable of, or maybe they're behind on the technology too. A lot of people in general know what AI is, but it's changing so much they may be behind on the technology. But then after that, especially for small business owners, it does come money. Like a lot of these programs are very expensive, and then again, this is all phases. I would say, like you were saying, RV, but then you're like, oh, can I really justify this cost as a small business owner? And it's like, can I even trust this system, basically?
Right.
Right. So it kind of all lends together where it's just such a new thing that it's hard to, pick a reason, like a singular reason. I think they all kind of play together as a unit for why small business owners might hesitate or, what hurdles they face.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
I don't know, Jason,
Jason,
what about
what's
your
your
opinion here?
yeah?
Yeah.
So trust is the issue, but like just you would trust a vendor. Yeah, that has to be built, right? It's different when it's kind of exacerbated when we're dealing with trusting a bot, trusting a tech to do it. It's the same thing that I think happened when the first time I used Apple Wallet to pay a credit card, use a credit card to pay something. I'm like, I'm kind of going out here. But eventually you do it enough times and then you do trust it. So that has to be gained. Now, for me, it's trusting dealing with my money, my AR, my AP in and out. And I am like, that's where I'm like, wait a minute, if they do something wrong, now there's a real issue with cash flow, which is always a small business consideration. So they have to build over time.
Right.
I just have to dive in at some point.
Yeah. I remember Gary Vee saying, whatever you're not good at, give it to somebody else to do it. I hate sitting and doing invoicing and all of that. And, looking at Bedrock and all that stuff, I was like, well, I have certain contracts, maybe not all, but I have certain contracts that are pretty legitimately tracked, right? So we know what we're putting in, and we know our billable hour, whether it's an hourly rate or it's a contractual, so there is some sort of a document that contains all that structure, right? How the money should be received and all that stuff. And to me, on the collecting end, not on the spending end, but the collecting end, I feel like, AI could really be helpful in my case, where I say, here's the contract, here is our Jira, for instance. You connect to it. Here is our, sprint. As soon as this sprint is closed, collect the next milestone. If the sprint is closed, that means that we've completed the milestone. If we've completed the milestone, we need to collect, right? And so it can, then tap into my QuickBooks and then send an invoice. And if I have full transparency, I can look at it. I was even thinking maybe I can even write with a note under the invoice. This invoice was generated by AI. If there are any discrepancies, please feel free to reach out. We apologize and we'll be more than happy to resolve the issue. So, or there are cases where, in the database we have, for instance, there's a company that we collect on the percentage of sales. So, instead of me every time logging in, figuring out how much did they spend, what was this, how many returns, and this and that, and spend the time, everything is in our database. So all I need the AI to do is connect to the database, understand, okay, here's what I need to do, and then here's the calculation, and then go into my QuickBooks, create an invoice, and then send it out. And maybe even, then I don't even need QuickBooks. I don't know, if it can even handle that aspect of it. But I think most of people, for a lot of the small businesses, there is not knowing enough. So then they think that if I wanted to do something like that, it'll cost me a lot of money. And so then therefore they'd be hesitant. And then the next stage is, okay, if money is not an issue, and I can spend the money, I just don't know how to do it or what I can do. So then it's more of a know-how. And then after all of that is gone, then they're like, well, wait a minute, is this really going to work? Like they were saying at the AWS conference, that a lot of the enterprises are tired of, hearing what could be done. They're like, no, show us a proven, implementation that's worked for somebody else. Money is not an issue. I don't know the know-how, but you know the know-how. So then just integrate it for me. But I just need to know that, it can be done. Now, that being said, I think Bedrock is, lowering the cost and entrance to that type of a setup quite down, bringing the bar down.
So, let's get more into Bedrock and, talk about maybe, practical cases.
Yeah.
You talked about, general theory of what it can do. You kind of explained it. So, at this conference, did they tell you anything, or did you come up with some use cases on your own for your own business or in general? Love to hear about, what do you see like an actual business could do with Bedrock?
Right. Great question. And guys, a lot of the stuff that were being discussed at the conference were enterprise level stuff, and it was amazing. It was mind blowing what things they were trying to achieve and do. And so, like, I'm talking about full strategy sales team, with VP of sales being the top supervisor, and then having the openers, and then having the closers, and and then having basically one of the best things for AI is sales, because you have your scripts already developed, and so you're feeding it into the AI, and over time AI can actually learn based on the responses it gets and then improve it too. So I was reading an article that was saying that AI is now able to surpass a senior sales rep. in what it could generate and it could close. Don't take my word for it. A lot of people say a lot of things, but if that were to be true, which a lot of these enterprise solutions seem to be adopting, then it's possible. But that being said, then I came in and I started researching. I'm like, well, what can we do with, what are some of the things that could be done? What are some businesses that could really, take advantage of this AI, agentic AI, right? One of them was loan processing. You can have an AI agent that will collect the information, put the papers together. You have another agent that will run credit reports and this and that, and then you have another agent that will, then review and then submit to an underwriter, agent. And then the underwriter basically gives a yay or nay, which then is passed to the loan officer for a final, review, and then they submit it to their underwriting department, depending on who they're working with, what bank they're working with, and so on and so forth. But pretty much here, you've got a case. Once AI is running through that entire process and you have an approved case, I think it's a done deal, because now you have the whole thing taken care of. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a done deal from the loan provider's side. From the loan applier side, I don't get that loan, or it messes with my check, right? Something is wrong with it, and I'm like, okay, so it was an AI that made that decision, so I'm rejected by a bot? Yet at the same time, I know that's going on. I know if I submit my application in, first thing they're going to do is run it through they're going to qualify it, and some workflow, some calculator is automatically doing that as I'm submitting the damn thing. So I know it's going on. It's kind of frustrating.
I knew you were going to ask that. So I'll tell you, I'll tell you a secret. Here in Glendale, there is a company that actually does this for the bank. So they are a loan approving or a scoring AI company, where they take all the customer information and run it through an algorithm, and then the AI, based on this, its guidelines, it will qualify or disqualify an individual. Now, the accuracy and the consistency of this this AI service is so high that some of the really reputable banks are doing business with them. And so, you can get, now their specific niche is the home improvement sector. So let's say all of a sudden you need a roof redone, and it's going to cost you $30,000, $40,000 and you don't have the money. And you need to go to the bank, pull a line of credit, get it fixed, and so on and so forth. So you go to different agencies trying to get qualified. And so what they will do is they will score the applicant, and they will submit it to the bank. And if the bank chooses not to, it will also submit it to other banks that might be interested in purchasing that, giving that loan. So luckily for us, because it's a very heavily regulated, industry, it's easier actually to trust AI, because you have all the regulations, all the benchmarks, and you're dealing with banks that have hundreds of trillions of records of lenders, lending to people, what type of people will default, and what the scenarios are, and this and that. And let's face it, AI, or let's say a computer can very easily do 10 times harder, solve a harder statistics problem than we could. So, they'll go through all the probabilities, they'll calculate everything and provide a better response. So that's my answer.
It's legit. It's legit.
So,
go ahead.
yeah. Now, where do you think that you would need a review by an individual?
I mean, kind of like in my business where that final review, I think here too, like you said, for the specific case of loan processing, that loan officer, like that, I don't think that can be automated. Um, statistics are one thing, but one thing that AI isn't good about are those, 1 in a million or those off, you know, non-typical, non-conforming use cases, where maybe emotion takes play, things like that, right? Like a family's really struggling, blah 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 blah.
Right.
So I think that loan officer at that that final check, sees the summary of everything, looking deeper. That can't, at least in my opinion, at least not right now, can be automated, just because there are still a lot of, like within AI at least, you can't, those like unique off cases, it doesn't really, it can't make a decision on, because there's maybe no data behind it or very little data behind it. So yeah, so that final check basically.
I love your answer, because I was actually talking to a friend of mine who wanted to open up a new business account, and he was asking me advice to go which bank to choose. And I remember in our 10K SB class, they were saying go to a bank where you can establish a relationship so they can listen to your story.
Yep.
Because the story tells a lot more than the numbers do.
Absolutely.
So it's a bigger picture when you have a story in there. Yeah, I agree with you. Jason, what do you think?
I think that the human should oversee the final decision. You know what? Here's a perfect example. I applied for a business American Express card, right? I got declined. Why? Because I have all my credit locked down. So anytime somebody tries to run my credit score, they're going to get back sorry, you can't do it. So then American Express basically said, call this number and we'll do the verbal authentication. And then I got on with them, and then I lifted the security freeze temporarily while they actually ran the credit score, and then got it. So great, mission accomplished. But it's those anomalies, it's those outlier cases.
That's right.
Because 80-20 rule, 80% of your stuff you can just automate, run, and it's going to work fine. But it's that 20% that doesn't fit into the box that you need the human to kind of think about and manage their way through it. And eventually, I think over time, AI is going to continue to recognize that, but then just keep bringing that final decision back.
Right, right. I'm going to go to the next example. This one is something that we're dealing with, and it's something that we're working on. We're pretty excited about it. It's looking at anomaly detection. Let's say you have an e-commerce website, yeah, and then all of a sudden you have a decline or in sales or traffic. Then you have these agents that are daily monitoring the traffic, daily monitoring the sales. They're looking at, hey, what's going on? Why? Like for instance, we normally do 30 sales a day. Now we're down to 25. Is that a concern? Is that is something happening? Is there an anomaly? And for it to then detect and say, hey, something is going on. Just want to let you know that this is a situation like that. Now, my question to you is, in this example, do you think an AI agent should then do more than just alert us about the anomaly, or should it do more than that?
Personally, I think it has to do with the ramifications. You deal in e-commerce, right? If our sales are down this much and the bot says, I've automatically adjusted this and offered a sale on these, so that should, I've dropped the price, that should increase the sales. So like a fix, and alert me when that's the case. But then if it's something that has bigger risk to it or a bigger price tag to it, I don't want it to just go discount the new cars we just got in because they're not selling yet. Well, the reason they're not selling is because of all this tariff shenanigans in the news and everything like that can't be managed, right? So now don't do that.
Right.
Based on severity.
Right.
Yeah, I think kind of in a similar vein, if the AI is like, oh, we have a drop of sales, and if the AI can, if you have another AI, or if that's the same one can recognize why, maybe prices are just too high, then yeah, like Jason says, just drop the price, and alert us, and we'll keep an eye on it. Cool. But if it's something bigger, a bigger problem or something like that, again, the severity issue, then it should be just an alert and maybe a summary of like what the AI thinks is going wrong, but like it shouldn't take action on something that can severely affect the functionality or revenue of a business. So
Right. And do you think that it's riskier if it's a false alarm or if it's a missed threat?
Oh, missed threat.
Yeah, missed threat. Like you always want a false alarm. Like yeah, you may waste a little bit more time or anything, but you never want to miss a threat.
Right.
Why do you think our email quarantines serve up to us? I've blocked it, but you have the ability to release it by identifying it as a false positive.
Right. Right.
Same thing. What's your third use case?
So the third use case is sales and inventory forecasting. That's another big one.
Yeah, definitely.
If you have too much inventory on hand, right, then you're just sitting on cash that you're not able to do anything with. If you have too little inventory and then the market demand is there, then you're screwed. You're losing sales. You're losing potential new clients even. I have a perfect example of a company during COVID that were selling. They were our client. They still are. They were selling some ointment, right? And for whatever reason, that ointment became like something everybody wanted to stock up on. And so all of a sudden there was a surge in the demand, and they just didn't have enough inventory, so they probably lost 50 to 100K in sales just that month. But they weren't able to replenish. They weren't able to replenish for the next 4 to 5 months because there was one particular ingredient that was coming from China, and that was shut down, right? The plants weren't working, so there was nothing to be shipped out. And so there goes, probably $500,000, quarter of $1,000,000 worth of sales that could have happened in that 4 months. So I think that, like you guys said, it's better for us to get false positives than not to get, the trend shifts. Hey, the demand is picking up, like first week, you should place an order, and I don't know where, or maybe you could monitor other things, trends and this and that, and say, listen, it seems like, certain ingredients aren't in the market anymore, or are less, or are on back order. You might want to place an order as soon as possible so that you have stock, for instance. Now, that said with that third example, I want to ask, do you know businesses that lost out by trusting instinct over data?
You know, we were all in 10,000 small businesses together. Remember our cohort, and Greg Doolin came and spoke on a panel to us. He's the owner of Doolin Soul Food down in
That's right.
Doolin Soul Food Kitchen, right? So
Yeah.
his growth opportunity allowed him to expand out doing catering. He bought, and I'm reading actually an article from the LA Times. He bought some adjacent real estate with the goal of building parking for the restaurant and a culinary kitchen for training and workforce development. It was the real estate that was dragging down. The business is doing great, but all the real estate was had like a big balloon payment coming, and so this is like threatening his business. I think it has to. The closure of businesses to me seems to be more affiliated with the business model or large issues that you need data to get around. Case in point, the tariffs, right? I was listening to an NPR podcast this morning about an Australian jewelry manufacturer who now can't send her stuff into the United States because even though that particular item of jewelry costs $20 for one of us to buy, they're adding on $80 just because of the size of the tariff that comes in, and so it's just these larger issues that happen. One of our alumni peers is dealing with tariffs on his import and export business. Like, so these are larger things, I think, that threaten business rather than a simple calculation of instinct.
Right.
And in this area, we don't have a lot of data available to us. How long is this tariff going to last? When's it going to end? What's the rate? It keeps changing.
Yeah, I think for me, I know one of my friends. I don't know if it was over data, but he's a cook, a chef, and so he started out by just doing catering and through his own kitchen, creating plates, things like that. And he started a restaurant, or like he bought, maybe real estate or something. And I know it didn't really work out. So I would say, you know, I don't know what went into his decision making, realistically, but as a third party viewer from the outside, I know he's doing well with just his catering and, out of the kitchen stuff, like that's all going really well for him. And so I get the idea, the instinct, and, you look at everyone else. Once you do well, you get an office or, you get a restaurant. But, like you said, rent or, things like that type of data, like maybe he didn't look into that too much, or, maybe he didn't look into his numbers too much, things like that. Again, this is a third party view of, something else. So like I don't know if this is actually the truth of what happened or anything like that, but just that's what it seems from the outside, where someone, there's a typical path of you start at home, then you get an office slash restaurant, whatever, and then you keep growing, growing, and growing. But that it's not always the case, and so that's kind of an example of maybe if you look like not even general data, but just his own data. How much is he making? How much does things cost? How much is rent going to be? What's the market like in his specific area where he's opening at? Because when he's catering, he's mobile, but when he's at a restaurant, he's not. So, different things like that. So, yeah.
So let me ask you, if AI gave you suggestions, forecasted something based on data, and what would be your inclination to go with your gut feeling versus trusting the data and the AI analysis?
If they're different,
Yeah, if they're different.
like if the gut feeling and the data
Yeah.
or the forecast is different.
Yes.
I mean, at that point, I would just do more research. I wouldn't trust my gut or the forecast implicitly 100%. If they confirmed each other, then sure. But if they don't, then I mean that just means either I don't know enough or the agent doesn't know enough. And so I can't have the agent do more research.
Right.
So I'm just going to do more research and see whether my gut was right or the agent was right.
Look at the source data. If it's true,
Yeah.
data don't lie. It's numbers.
Right.
But at some point, you do have to have a healthy, sometimes bucking the trend works. Sometimes opening a business in the middle of
Yeah.
a pandemic is a perfect opportunity. While everything
Right.
else is going down,
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
you're standing out.
Right. Right.
Absolutely. Just like we talked about earlier, that, there's anomaly cases, these AI agents can't figure those out. So sometimes your gut instinct, even if it's in the minority in terms of data or historical precedents, that doesn't mean that it's not going to succeed or you're not right. So yeah, absolutely.
Right. Sometimes in the middle of uncertainty, there is, opportunity.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how it's going to go, but there might be an opportunity to embark on. So, yeah, I know stories where the person had a gut feeling and they went with it, while all the stats told them otherwise, and they actually survived. And I also know the exact opposite side where I think there was a movie, I can't remember the name, I wish I did. It's on the crash of 2007, where there was one guy who predicted the collapse, just
Big
running
Short.
the number. Big Short.
Big Short, yeah.
So he knew how to run the numbers, and so he saw it coming, right? While other people were saying, "Oh, there's no way," blah blah blah. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's actually three separate companies knew it. But yeah, that's a perfect example. I forget the guy's name, the doctor who saw it,
Yeah.
and then and then the investment company, and then the two kids that were running their investment company. Yeah. Data don't lie.
they don't lie.
So how do we wrap this up now? Where do we take this to? What is now the culmination of these use cases and what is being offered by what's that AWS app?
Bedrock.
Bedrock.
Well, I personally want to draw a more general statement than Bedrock. I want to say that my takeaway was, having agents start helping us in our businesses is getting simpler and simpler and more cost effective, even for small businesses. And to piggyback right off of that, there are some tasks that I never thought I could trust AI. But the more I think about it, I have a lot more clearer boundaries around it than some of the other stuff. So I think I can trust AI doing my billing better than I could with more accuracy than I could outsource it to somebody else, because I would have to sit there, explain to them, well, we spent this many hours, no, AI will just go in, read my documentation, read my contract, look at my, timelines, look at my, I want to say sprint, but just off of whatever was completed, then bill accordingly, because everything is in black and white. There is nothing left to be guessed. That being said, I still find it more challenging to trust AI to, let's say, for instance, decide on what technology stack I should use for this client or that client.
So, what do you do when you really like a girl and you want to date her and you don't know exactly where it's going to go? You know, how serious will you ever get? What do you have to do? You just got to ask her out. So, how do you ask out an agent in this
Yeah.
case?
Or become friends, right? First become friends
No,
without,
no,
you
no, no,
know,
no.
no, no.
I'm not going in the friend zone on this one.
Okay. Yeah, I honestly think that, it's understanding that I'm not going to find the perfect one. It doesn't exist. And it's going to take work on my end and it's going to take work on their end. But the possibilities are very rapidly becoming attainable, achievable. And so for a small business or a startup like us, these are starting to become really interesting considerations.
So then to get started, where do you go to date with a bot, with an agent? Yeah. What's the first agent you employ in your
So,
business?
right. For me, I think our invoicing, collectibles, payables, those are things that I can run an agent. Assistant. An assistant would definitely be something I could utilize. Somebody that detects anomaly would be great. And
Right.
I want to go back to that because there was a question that said, would you trust it to give, make further decisions than just alert you? I would definitely want it to run an analysis and actually provide me solutions. Say, well, we have option A and B, you choose which one you want to go with. Well, we can do this or we can do that. Rather than just say, well, the sales are down. I could look at the numbers and say the sales are down. Or there's an anomaly. I could look at that and say there's an anomaly. But I would like it to provide, a layer more based on the research it's done. Say, here are some things that you can take into consideration based on past historical data or, similar situations where it was recorded, in such and such dates.
So I look at risk in terms of severity. How bad will it be? Like of the consequences of it happening? What's the odds of it occurring? The the possibility that it can occur, right? And for me, ARAP is up in that red zone. So I can't go where you're going, but you deal with e-commerce where there's lots of little transactions, and that's
Right.
probably why you're more capable and trusting of it as it is. Whereas I would do something like, let me put my marketing, that's down in the green area. Let me put my marketing in there. So, hey, a bot that's going to analyze the content of the Bots, Beers, and the Biz podcast and generate out some great um, social posts that we can fit and feed into. That works fantastic, right? Skaar, you must have one.
Yeah, I mean, just like all a lot of just the internal processes. Um, obviously I've talked a lot today about not the client-facing stuff, but we're working on a lot of we're not quite there yet, but we're working on a lot of our internal processes, communication between each other, data management, all of that stuff, and automating and working on that aspect. Um, Even like you said, marketing too. That's something that we'll work towards too as well. That's definitely not something we're like opposed to. Maybe we work with the public sector, so reporting. It's usually just once a month and it's the same form over and over again. We don't need to manually do that. So there's a lot of things on our end that we can definitely work into, and that we are working towards. It just takes some time and effort to figure out the right tools and everything like that. So
And the tools are becoming more prevalent, much easier to get to.
yeah,
Gentlemen, your
exactly.
takeaways.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I could start. I think in general, I've already had this idea before, but it's kind of reconfirmed and, strengthened is just that, there's a lot of AI agents out there. And, I said this at the beginning of it's an opportunity and a headache. And I that was strengthened in our conversation today, but I think it's more of an opportunity now, I would say. I think we're seeing, RB, like you said, that companies are asking, what can it do, not what could it do. So, like, it's more of a show me, not tell me type of deal now. So that allows for more opportunities, actual products and services to actually be generated rather than, these Bay Area startups that just raise seed money over and over again, but don't actually produce anything.
Right.
So, that's kind of, been re-strengthened. Like, I'm looking forward to, sure, the next 5 years, but, the next like 3, 4 months, see what happens. There's so many different things out there, news every day. So, yeah.
Cool. Arby, your takeaway?
My takeaway is that, again, rapidly evolving this AI revolution is rapidly evolving, and I think that I'm more convinced that I should get involved now versus wait until later, knowing that I'm going to have some headache, but like Skaar said, I'm going to have opportunities as well.
Yeah, I think the opportunity is there. My takeaway is actually a story. So I have a client who just wrapped up their pilot program. Today I did training out to their entire organization. They're a software company that does e-discovery for legal firms. They built, I did training. I'm like, here's everything you can do with an agent and how you go about creating it and what needs to go into it. What are the elements of it? And they built a sales quoting agent, and the solution architects are now, they're like, don't even email me anymore. Just go to the agent and input your information in there. Take it with a grain of salt. It may not be 100%, but it's in the right ballpark. It's giving the right range for information. So that's it's like just one agent that they tried that's saving somebody in the company a lot of time. So find where that is for you and build that out. And now there's plenty more tools available to you, but we want to make sure we come back to the tool we promised you at the beginning of this podcast, which is the step-by-step guide on setting up a personal assistant agent, one that works with your calendar, your tasks, your emails, and prioritizes your to-dos with the Eisenhower matrix. What the heck is an Eisenhower matrix?
Eisenhower is the quadrants.
Quadrants, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one. That's good. Work on quadrant 2. That's what keeps things from becoming fires, and everything else that's not important, get rid of it.
Right.
So just head over to our Instagram page. Our handle is Bots, Beers, and the Biz, all one word, no ampersands or anything like that. Just Bots, Beers, and the Biz. We have it downstairs here in our show notes. And send us a message with the words personal assistant. We'll send the guide right to you. Great follow-up for you. Thank you to my pirate captains, Arby and Skaar, for joining me. You've been watching Bots, Beers, and the Biz. Cheers, people.
Cheers.
Thank you guys.
Arr.